going to take our papers, move them over so that they are at the 2b square. And I can see for the most part, it's a little bit lighter down in the bottom, someplace in here, it's a little bit lighter, and the rest of it is very dark with the exception of the extension of that white shape that I just worked on, and then this white shape that comes down here. So I have a white shape that's going to come down here. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in, block that in, and I'm going to go ahead and block in the white shape that is here, and then I'm going to do my shading. And I'm not trying to make it into something, I'm not trying to make it look like the side of his head, I'm not trying to make it look like an eyebrow. All I'm doing is drawing what I see. I'm trying to be very committed to that. Looks like there might be another little white shape right here. And this is where that dark is. It kind of a blobby light area in the middle of that dark. Oopsie, look at that. I accidentally erased it. Accidentally went over it with pencil. And the value in here is probably, gosh, it's still pretty dark. It's maybe 80 or 70%. So it is dark. It's just not quite as dark as the upper left corner of this square. So I am going to shade it, but with a very light hand, a very, very light hand. And then I'm going to come in and do my little bit of blending. And then maybe turn my Q-tip so that I don't want to lose the lighter shapes in there. As much as you can really look at the shapes and values, you're going to make a great drawing. Okay, so, ooh, this is exciting. This is clearly the eye. I'm going to forget that though, right? I'm just going to draw what I see. So the first thing I see is this dark shape down here. And it starts and then stops and comes up and over. And it's very dark. And then, let's see, the eye shape starts at about a third of the way up. Here's a third of the way up. And comes up and over and ends just to the left over here. I see there's this like triangular light shape, so I'm gonna get that in. And then this dark that kind of comes up and over. And then this is pretty thick. It's more than a single line thick. And the pupil actually comes down and sits right on the glasses and comes over here, or rather the cornea. And I'm going to just do my best to see where my darks and lights are. I'm not trying to make it into an eye. I'm trying to just draw the lights and darks that I see. There's this highlight here that I want to try to keep. There's some really interesting shapes in here. just trying to draw what I see, which is kind of ironic because what I see is an eye. Okay, and then above the eye is this kind of light area, part of his lid that's catching the light. And then above that, it's just dark. It is just, it's as dark as I can get it. So this is, and this. It's very dark in here and kind of bleeds into the darkness. I can see where it gets a little lighter over here. And this is definitely one of the trickiest spots. Again, go super slow when you're working on the eye because we do look at eyes all the time. So that's where it's going to kind of make it or break it. Now I'm going to give you a little trick when it comes to these, what looks like eyelashes. If you do the skin first and then the eyelashes last, then you'll do a little bit better. And this is the white of the eye, but look, it's like, I don't know, it's like 60% right here in the corner, right? So I'm gonna keep that in mind. And then these eyelash, I'm not trying to make them look like crocodile eyelashes or like cartoon eyelashes. I'm just trying to draw what I see. And the only thing that's actually white is that highlight. So I can go back in and just very carefully touch some of the graphite on my pencil. And I feel like I need to erase out some of what I got a little bit too dark. There, that's better. And okay. The eyes will probably take 2 or 3 times longer than anything else. All right, this line is crossing into 4B and coming down not quite halfway. And so I'm doing this, but it's that thicker line, right? And this light extends, gets closer to, and then widens out here. Okay. And then this, ooh, over here, okay, off of this corner, this dark shape that comes up, kind of comes up like this. And this is a little darker in here. And this very dark shape comes over like that. Okay, oh my goodness. I'm just watching really carefully as I get over here that edge, it's not a straight line. What it is the light is catching, and because this is old Chuck Close, he's got some wrinkles and his skin is not super smooth, and you can see kind of how that is impacting the quality of light that bounces around a little bit. Same in here. It's very dark, and then it gets not quite so dark, and then it goes to almost light very quickly. Up here I can see that in the 4 box, I maybe didn't notice some of these dark edges in here. So it's okay for me to do that now. And this in here maybe goes to a 60%, something like that. Okay, back to shading, or blending rather, and softening those edges if they're truly soft edges, and then adding just a little bit in here. If you feel like it needs to be a harder edge, like right here, then you can go ahead and add that. Kind of makes me think of elephant skin right here. All right, moving on. Goodness, this is a crazy square, isn't it? Okay, let's find out where our darks are. If I had to make kind of a curved line to indicate where that is, it would start and then stop someplace in here. Now, this is a curved line, and this is not a curved line, but if I draw really lightly, then what I can do is I can come back and start to put in the character of that line, which is something like that. And then I see how it kind of goes across and across and up. And then in here it's really dark. And it's still pretty dark. If this is a 90%, maybe this is an 80 or 70%. So it continues to be pretty dark, but I'm managing with less pressure so that it is not as dark. And then this in here seems to be relatively dark. Maybe, gosh, let's see. Maybe a 50% or 40% right in here. So I'm just very carefully, without very much pressure at all, doing a little bit of shading. I think this actually is in the wrong spot. Let's see if I can move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. Now, that's a little bit messy, but let's see what happens when we blend. And this in here. Now, I may have over softened some of these areas, and if you feel like you did too, you can always come back and develop it just a little bit more. I feel like this and this, like this is lighter than this is in here. So I can come back and use my eraser to kind of pick that up. Okay, so I feel like this is a little bit better. let's move over. And here we have the other eye. Okay. So the line is starting just below the bottom corner. It's coming up, and I'm just looking at this light shape. So it's actually like a light shape that does that. There's a dark area. Ooh, there's the top, that dark area there too, just like the other side. And then the white of the eye comes up here, the iris and cornea. I think this was actually maybe a little bit higher. And then this is all dark. So let's see, this is a dark shape that comes up and kind of comes up and over and ends about a third of the way down, which is all dark. And then this is just from this side up and over. So this is all dark. And it actually like bleeds down into, let's see, this is the highlight here, and now if I were just drawing what an eye looks like, I wouldn't just have the eyelid and the eye be the same blackness that just kind of run into each other. So that's what's so important, is that you're not actually asking yourself to make it look like an eye. You're just asking yourself to look super close and see what you see, and then copy those shapes and values. And you will be astonished that you actually get much closer to what a real eye looks like if you're not trying to make it look like an eye. Okay, and then up here, let's see, this line comes down, and I see lots of these dark lines. I'm trying to copy each one of them, really looking closely. And I can go ahead and soften, blend, blur. Come back over if it needs to be a little darker. Okay, so we are on 7B. If we move our cards over so we can see 7B, we can see that there's this large black shape here that goes down to an area that's kind of a triangle shape that has a lighter value in it. So we can kind of put in that lighter shape. Kind of seems like it comes down like this, and then like this. And this line here, that's the edge of the eye, extends across, and we see just the top of that little spot, that dark area there. And then the darker area kind of comes over about halfway and up. And then there's this kind of shadowy dark, and the underside of the eyebrows go up just about halfway and kind of come out and kind of go down like this. So this is the area that's very dark in here, and it has some very light white hairs coming across. I can either plan for those by making shapes that help me to avoid those hairs, or I can do some deductive erasing. Just kind of, I'm going to try to plan for them, and then I'm going to see if I need to get darker in there, or lighter rather. Oopsie, my pencil's breaking. Here we go. Okay. Now if I look really carefully, there's an area right down here that's not completely black. So I'm going to plan for that. Just do some lighter shading in there. And this is lighter in here. And it moves toward darker as it gets toward the grid over here, and has these interesting shapes in here, which I guess are eyelashes. Try not to draw eyelashes. I just want to draw the shapes that I see. And coming over here, this is tricky. Okay, so this is where this hair is, and I'm going to start by just laying down some medium value by using the Q-tip that has some graphite on it. Then I'm not working on a completely white piece of paper. And then I can come in here and maybe do some deductive erasing for like this big white, these white hairs that are in here. Okay, it's a little thick, but that's okay. I can do something about that. And then I can come in and see how these darker hairs kind of come down to some that kind of curl around. Let's see this one in here, and then some others that kind of work together. Try to get these darker ones in here. Hair is probably some of the most challenging areas. So maybe soften that a little bit. Kind of want to thin these white hairs. So try not to try not to make him look like a cartoon, but just really looking at the shapes and the values that I see. Okay, moving on to 8B. We can extend this line, this edge of his head down about 3/4 of the way, and then there's a little bump out. So it comes down about 3/4 of the way, and then there's a little bump out. And this is kind of goes out and to the right, all the way down to the bottom of the grid. And then there's another little bump out here. And now we're just looking for values, shapes and values. That's all we need to do. And there's a straight edge and then kind of a blurry edge on the left-hand side. And this is very light. This area in here, which is the edge of his skin, is at best 10%. So we're just going to use our Q-tip that already has a little bit of graphite on it, and blur this just a little bit. It looks like there's like this little thing is maybe 10%, and then has these, if I look very carefully, these little lines right down here. Maybe I overdid that. Blend that out just a little bit. And then there's value, a darker value on top of this shape, and then lighter as it goes down. So I can go ahead and give that some value there, and then lighter as it goes down. Okay. All right, we're looking pretty good, guys. At any point that you feel very confident, you can feel free to work independently to finish this image. I am doing this so that if you are a little bit scared of the whole process, then I'm happy to hold your hand the whole time. I folded the top of my Xerox copy so that I could get the square that I'm working on to be closer to the square that I'm drawing. So this square continues from the B down through the C, and it makes this lovely S curve, ends up just to the right of halfway, which is here. And it looks like it is all black except for maybe over here in this corner. There's a little bit of a little something in here that's like maybe 80%. So the rest of it is 100% value. So I'm just going to go ahead and lay in that dark value. Remember, you can do multiple layers. You don't have to You really don't want to press so hard that you shade 100% just with your first effort, because you'll essentially end up denting the paper, and that's something that you want to avoid, because you really want to be working on top of the paper, pressing the graphite into it. You don't want to dent it. You can end up getting some weird things going on if you dent the paper. Okay, and this little area in here is probably 80%. So I'm just going to go ahead and carefully shade over that. Blend this in. Blend this, but don't over blend it so that that value, that little shape is still there. And then we're moving on to our second box and C. Here we go. Okay, oh, this is fun. All right, so we can see that this comes down just a quarter of the way down, probably a quarter of the way down. And then it's going to turn to the left, come across. And down here, we're coming off of the bottom right-hand corner a little bit. We're going to come up and then over. Okay, and then this in here is the inside of the glasses. They come right in there. All right, this is a lighter value back here, so we're going to leave that, but there's definitely like a little shape here that does something like that. And then this diagonal shape comes straight, kind of curves just a little bit down, like so. And this is pretty dark up here. This is a pretty challenging square here, so really need to look carefully. This is a little bit darker on this side, and definitely very light on this side, so I'm going to happen to my Q-tip there. I'm going to just use the end of my Q-tip and let's see. This is actually a very thin line with a dark edge on one side and a dark edge on the other side. And this is also dark in here. And it starts to become very difficult to see the difference between the glasses and the skin. So if what you see is jet black, then you draw what you see. Don't worry about trying to make it look like glasses. It will look more like glasses if you just draw what you see. I can see down here there's a little bit of lighter value. Right in here, and it's a very soft, smooth transition, and then darker value here that just blends in with his ear. Kind of. Okay. There's some interesting shapes in here. And this is pretty dark, going up from here. Okay, let's move over to 3C. See that I'm on the right one. And let's see where these glasses, they come up and they cross maybe less than a quarter, maybe a fifth of the way down. And they cross this grid right here. And they are dark. Again, use multiple layers. Don't dent the paper. There we go. And isn't this weird? This is skin that's being seen through the reflector, or through his glasses. So just draw what you see. I see a line that curves around, goes like that. So curves around, goes like that. I see this kind of moon shape that is something like this, that's a bit darker. Than the rest of it. I see that this shape up here is a bit darker. I have a shape up here that's a bit darker. And I can see some deductive shapes. And I see some darker shapes coming in here. Maybe another one here. And down here darker. So I'm just trying to draw what I see and not trying to make it look like something that it isn't. I think if I make this just a little bit darker, I would say that right in here, it's probably maybe 70%. So that's pretty dark. Okay, and then go ahead and use my Q-tip, because it's all, none of that is 0%. And it looks like it needs to be a little bit darker in some areas. So what made Chuck Close so successful at this is he really looked very, very closely. Okay, moving along. All right, so the rest of the glasses crosses and comes down and makes this little curve up and then stops at the halfway point. So it makes this curve up, stops at the halfway comes around, and where does it end? Almost the halfway point here.